Good evening and a warm welcome to K24 Sport. I'm Shon Osimbo Kasula. Now, when you talk about football vision, talent, physique and work rate, back in the early 2000s, Emile Heskey's name pops up. Having featured for top teams like Liverpool and Leicester, Emile was highly regarded as a versatile player who netted more than 100 goals in the English Premier League. Today, it's an honor to have the former England international who played alongside great names like Michael Owen, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Wayne Rooney, Jamie Carragher, just to name a few, talking to us live from the UK. We'll be delving more into his life after football, his career that spanned over 20 years, and his thoughts on racism in football. So let's just quickly go to that. Welcome to the program, Emile. How are you and what have you been up to in recent years?
Yeah, how you doing? Been fairly busy. My children are playing football, so I look after them as well. You know, just trying to stay as busy as possible. Currently, I'm doing a UEFA course, which will allow me to get back into football and to be getting back in an executive role or administrational role, which is nice. So yeah, I'm trying to keep as busy as possible.
Yes, so let's just, before we delve more into what we'll be doing later on, let's just talk about what is currently happening across the world. We've seen protests and riots across the United States, with demonstrations also taking place around the world following the death of African-American, that is George Floyd, in Minneapolis. In sports, it seems like racism is actually not also going away. Why is this?
I'm guessing it's an educational thing. You know, we can. The thing is now we're having to have the uncomfortable discussions that people don't want to have. We're happy to have them, but some people are uncomfortable talking about it. But this is the thing: we have to be uncomfortable to move forward. You know, we still haven't got to where we want to get to. And one thing we have to remember: we all look at sports and we all look at football to lead the way. But it's a societal thing. It's not necessarily about sport. We need it within the education. We need it within parenting. We need it within everything. So yeah, I think that's where we're going.
Yeah, and do you think football authorities across the world are doing enough to, that is in the fight against racism?
There's always more can be done, isn't there, really? But, you know, what can they actually do? There are sports institute that let's be honest, commercially, that's where everything lies with them. They can, as we've seen, a lot of brands and a lot of organizations standing with the BLM movement. So, yes, they are coming out in their droves because they look at it and they know when right is right and when wrong is wrong. And so they have to stand with certain people when they know that certain things aren't right. So we're seeing it more and more now. And
during your playing days, I know you had football fans. There were football fans who actually they chanted racist chants towards you. How did you overcome this, especially when you're representing England?
Back then, we never allowed it to affect us on the pitch because, again, I was born in '78. So I was raised in the 80s, and in the 80s in England wasn't great for black and brown people, ethnic people, we'll say. You know, we were you could be attacked at any given time, and it just wasn't easy. So being on a football pitch where someone can't get to you is not really a problem. I loved the fact that I could actually affect your mood by scoring goals. So I took that upon myself. But again, it wasn't easy because to have a full stadium of 30,000 making monkey chants isn't nice.
And I know, and we are hoping something can be done soon to just, against that fight against racism. So let's just also still take it back. You started off at Leicester City, and in your own words, you said, if there was no Leicester City, there will be no Emile Heskey. Kindly expound on that.
Well, that was due to when I left for Liverpool, Leicester kind of spiraled into financial problems, and they went into administration. So there was a time frame where they had to pay off creditors and come out of administration. So I saw there was a consortium being put together by Gary Lineker, and I wanted to get involved because, like I said, if there was no Leicester City, there wouldn't be me, because I was part and parcel of they were part and parcel of what I became.
Yes, and now before you started answering about Leicester, you just talked about your move to Liverpool, where you netted more than 20 goals for the Reds. What are some of the best memories with the Reds? That is the English Premier League giants.
Obviously, the treble-winning season was amazing. To go to 3 cup finals and win them it was just an amazing feat for us. We were still a young team, because you got to remember, I was only 22 at the time. Michael would have been 20. Steven Gerrard would have been 20 as well. So we were still a fairly young side. So to go to the League Cup final and win that, then against a really good Arsenal side in the FA Cup and come back from 1-0 down to win that, and then to go to Dortmund in the UEFA Cup final and win that as well in the fashion that we did in the golden goal. It's funny because when you score the golden goal, no one really knew what to do. Oh, is it over? Do we carry on playing? So it was just a wonderful feeling to go to do that, and then to go and win the Super Cup after that was amazing as well.
And also, one of the most talked about partnerships is your playing career. When it comes to partnerships, it's you and Michael Owen. How did you two become the perfect match?
It started off from when we were very young. I was 18 and I was playing for the national team under 18, and Michael was 16, but he was playing with my age group because he was that good. And we just when you just get that chemistry with someone, and it just clicks, and that's how it was. He understood what I wanted to do. I understood what he wanted to do, and it just worked so well. And it's funny because that tournament we went to, we played against France. Thierry Henry, Nicolas Anelka, Ousmane Darboe, William Gallas, Mikel Silvestre, Willy Sagnol. All these players are playing, and the manager is Gerard Houllier. And then who buys me for Liverpool? Gerard Houllier.
Yes. And also, I know that was actually lauded. At the same time, your international career was also lauded by your former teammates, where they described you as a true definition of a team player. Many times, despite the criticism about scoring goals, you chose not to be selfish, and you are willing to do the dirty work for them to shine. Why did you decide to be selfless on the pitch? Something we don't often see, especially with the current lot of players.
Oh, the thing is, if you get to know me, this is me. This is my personality anyway. I'm not one to want to hog all the limelight and all that. But again, it's a team sport. I think Diego Simeone said it well. You could take 1 or 2 great players, but they're not going to take you on the travel. They're not going to travel the way that you want to go, unless you get a bunch of players taking you on that journey. That's just me. I couldn't change it. I wouldn't change it, and it got me to where I wanted to get to, and winning trophies that I wanted to win.
Yes, and one of the most memorable moments in your international career is your goal against Germany. That is after you England beat Germany 5-1. It's a moment people still talk about it right now, because 11 months earlier in the 2002 World Cup qualifiers, Germany had beaten you, but you guys came back and made that big win. Tell us more about that and how it felt for you.
It was an amazing feeling. The reason it was even sweeter, because we lost the last game in the old Wembley before it got demolished and rebuilt. And it was to Germany, 1-0. It was a horrible game. It was, I think it was Kevin Keegan's last game. He stepped down after that. And then this was Sven's first competitive game. So it was important. Then you're playing against a German side who I think they hadn't lost at home in 60 plus games. And then you go 1-0 down after 8 minutes. So it wasn't easy, but we scored, we galvanized, we scored goals at critical times. Michael scored, and then Stevie just scored just before half time. And then that plays a mental barrier on you when you're going in at half time, 1-0, 1 goal down or 1 goal up. You're on a high if you're 1 goal up, or you're on a little bit lower when you're 1 goal down. So we scored at critical times.
A bit of the downside with the England's golden generation is how, I know there was criticism, you guys didn't lift like a major title. Why was this? Yet the squad was very talented.
Yeah, you say the squad was very talented, but you got to remember a lot of squads were very, very talented. You know, we probably didn't get the best out of the team as a team. As a team, we didn't get the best out of ourselves. But again, when you say golden generation, I'll go back to when I was talking about England under 18s. So my age group is Thierry Henry, Nicolas Anelka, Ousmane Darboe, Willie Sagnol, William Gallas, Mikel Silvestre, and then you add in Zidane, Vieira, Petit. So you got a treasure trove of players there, and they were the ones that were actually winning stuff. They were probably a bit more together as a group as well, and we probably were a little bit more splintered than them. But again, that doesn't take away the fact that we possibly did underachieve. The closest I got to it was the quarterfinals against Brazil in 2002. But then again, you come up against Rivaldo, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, 3 Ballon d'Ors, and then they have Kaká, another Ballon d'Or on the bench.
You're saying the other teams were actually also strong. So Gareth Southgate currently seems to be building something special with England. We've seen they reached the semis at the World Cup and also at the Nations League. How far do you think this current crop of group can go?
I think they can go very far because they're actually not that old. They're quite a young bunch, and they're very, very together, very, very connected. So I think he's done very well in a sense of bringing in some young players that spice it up a little bit. They're very fearless young players. So it gives you something different and something added spice to your team. So whether they can win something, we don't know yet, because again, when you look at, I didn't expect them to go to the semi-finals, but again, putting no pressure on them, look what you can achieve. It was a lot different to when we were playing. The pressure was on from day one.
Football, because I know most footballers are currently watching right now, and we've had some footballers have experienced, emotional and, financial mess after football because they don't know how to adjust. But also, you have gone ahead, you have done some investments, but at the same time, you have a book out. It's called Even Heskey Scored, which has also been shortlisted for the Autobiography of the Year at the 2020 Telegraph Sports Book Awards. Why did you decide to share your world with the rest of the world?
Well, it came about when meeting fans all over the world, and obviously Liverpool is a massive, massive brand. So you meet fans all over the world. They've all got things they want to talk to you about, whether it be a football match, whether it be an occasion where you went there on tour or anything. And you start talking to them, and they reminisce on certain games, and then you start to interact with them about the game. And then after talking to them for a while, they ask you, when did you book out? Can I buy your book? And I'll say, well, I haven't got one. But then after hearing that so many times, you're like, okay, well, maybe I need one. And then I met with Darius Vassell, who used to play for Aston Villa in England with me, and he'd just finished his book, and I said, "What was it like?" And he said, "It was great. It was a wonderful feeling to actually get it out there, and reminisce and look over. It was very cathartic, looking back at what you've achieved." I went, "I've never really looked back at anything that I've achieved." So then I met with the ghostwriter, and he lived where I used to live in Leicester. We grew up in the same area. He used to work for Leicester City as well, so I thought, well, this is quite a good match, and it was brilliant. We just went through everything, and it was just a wonderful experience going through all the good stuff that I'd done, and even I put in all the bad times I had as well. You know, it wasn't all up. It wasn't all up. You know, you have some downs as well. Mentally, going to Liverpool was great. Going to one of the biggest clubs in the world, but I was only 22, and emotionally and mentally, I probably wasn't ready to move away from my family, being in Leicester. And for the first six months, I said I couldn't deal with it. I was just upset, and I was driving back to Leicester and then coming back up to Liverpool. And it wasn't far; it was only like a 2-hour drive, but that affects your playing as well, you know. And this is where football's going now, where people are being a bit more open about their struggles with mental health. But you know, we're human like everyone else.
So, what is your advice to football players who are actually staring at retirement?
I think education is huge. Education is huge. Like I said, I'm doing a UEFA course at the minute, which is for ex-international players who are looking at their second career. We call it our second career. So they're looking at the next step for them, and you learn a lot about the football clubs. You learn a lot about the directorships within football clubs, within associations, within your own business. Where could you fit? So education is a huge one. But I would say not just for players that are finishing now. I think players who are playing, education is huge, because while you're educating yourself now, you could be building your pathway into the next step. Because generally, what happens is you finish playing, and football is a strange industry. You're a presenter now. You could do that for 22 years, and you'll be held quite high within that industry. Whereas football, I could finish today after playing 22 years, and then no one recognises that you've done anything there. That's your playing career. No, you've got to start again.
And you also talked about just doing a course, and later on we'll be having an executive role. But do you have any plans for a coaching career in the near future?
No, I don't have plans at this moment in time for a coaching career. I would prefer to go down the admin side of things and helping out building a club from looking from the top down and helping structure things so making the on-field easier. At the end of the day, footballers have a lot to give back within football, because you've got to remember, from the age of 9 we've worked within groups, and we've worked within groups very well. So we're used to that. So we have a lot to give back within that environment. So I think it's a great thing that players are looking at education now to help them push forward for the next step within their career.
Finally, as we wrap up the interview, what is your message to upcoming footballers? Because so many African players always want to play in the English Premier League, and you have been there, you have done that, and you had a stellar career.
Yeah, I think everyone wants to play in the Premier League. But one thing I will say: work on your craft, work on your trade. Keep focusing on what you want to achieve, because the hard work will pay off. You don't necessarily have to jump to I was lucky enough to jump. I was 17 and I played in the Premier League, but you don't have to be 17 and go into the Premier League. You might have to work your way from the bottom all the way to the top, and that might even fulfill you more than actually being given it at the top straight away. Because, you look at Jamie Vardy. If you'd told Jamie Vardy when he was 17, when he was 18 and released by Sheffield Wednesday, if you'd have told him that he was going to in 15 years' time you're going to be the top scorer in the Premier League and you're going to win the Premier League, he'd probably told you to shut up, because he couldn't see it at that time. But guess what? He focused himself, went lower down, worked on his game, helped him. He had managers that helped him build that ladder and work his way up that ladder. And this is what we've got to do, because again, I've been lucky enough to travel to Africa. I'm usually Ghana and places like that. So I've seen a lot of young footballers, and they're very, very talented. They've got natural ability. So they have to work on that as well, and work on their strengths, work on your weaknesses as well, because again, you don't want to keep working on your strengths and be over reliant on that. You've got to be working on your weaknesses as well. So that's where I would say.
For joining us on the program, that is Emile Heskey. Thank you so much. I know most people were waiting to watch this interview, and your advice to young footballers, that is so amazing. So thank you so much, and have a lovely evening. So let's quickly just relive his moments on the pitch, the reason why he was a big deal. Just a bit of 30 seconds of those highlights. Let's see that as we quickly wrap up with Karen Karimi on the other side.
Comes the cross, Heskey's there! Heskey scores the opening goal in the Premiership for Leicester City, the 18-year-old. The Shipley.
Yes, that's all we had for you today on K24 Sport. Karen?
The fact that they beat Germany.
I
wasn't happy about that. I wasn't happy about that. I was like, ah! But of course, the next World Cup is in 2022.
Yes, in Qatar.
In Doha, Qatar, and we're looking forward to that.